There are moments in every financial journey when the world shakes around you, when the charts collapse, when the headlines turn dark, when fear spreads faster than logic, and when every voice around you begins whispering that maybe this time it is all over. Those moments are not accidents. Those moments are the filters that separate the few who change their future from the many who surrender it. Crashes are not just events. Crashes are tests. Crashes reveal who is prepared and who is panicking, who understands the long game, and who is controlled by emotion, who sees opportunity in uncertainty, and who sees disaster in volatility. And right now, as the market experiences waves of panic, uncertainty, and confusion, something powerful is happening below the surface, something most people will not recognize until it is too late. XRP is going through a cycle designed to shake out the weak, distract the impatient, and pressure the unprepared. But for those who survive this period, for those who understand what is really unfolding, this crash is not the end, it is the beginning. Because the truth most investors never understand is that wealth is rarely created during the euphoric phase. Wealth is created during the chaos. Wealth comes from those who endure what others run from. Wealth is born in the moments when fear blinds the majority and clarity guides the few. If you survive this XRP crash, you will be ahead of almost everyone. Not because of luck, not because of timing, but because you understood something deeper about financial cycles, something almost no one teaches. Every major financial revolution looks like a disaster before it looks like success. Before the internet dominated the world, internet stocks collapsed. Before Amazon became a trillion-dollar company, its stock fell by more than 90%. Before Apple became global royalty, its share price was so low, the company almost died. Before Bitcoin reached 60,000, it dropped 80% and was declared dead countless times. Do you see the pattern? The crash always comes before the breakthrough. Fear always comes before the transformation. Capitulation always comes before the explosion. This is why surviving a crash is the greatest advantage an investor can have. Because the crash is where the shortcuts are burned and the strong hands are made. The crash is where the future millionaires are separated from the temporary participants. The crash is where the market strips away emotion and forces you to decide whether you truly understand what you are invested in or whether you are simply following the crowd. And this is where the truth about XRP becomes more important than ever. XRP is not a meme coin. It is not a casino token. It is not hype-driven. It is infrastructure. It is utility. It is the foundation for a new era of global liquidity. It is built for cross-border settlement, for institutional finance, for interoperability, and for a financial system moving toward digitization. That kind of asset does not exist to please short-term traders. It exists to solve long-term problems. But the path to global adoption is never smooth. It is filled with resistance, volatility, regulatory pressure, and moments designed to make most people quit before the payoff arrives. This crash is one of those moments. This is why surviving it could make you rich, because this period is where the majority will disappear, but the minority will prepare. While others panic, the prepared will study. While others sell, the prepared will accumulate slowly and strategically. While others lose faith, the prepared will strengthen conviction by understanding the long-term transformation unfolding beneath the surface. The question is not whether XRP is crashing. The question is whether you understand why the crash is happening and what lies on the other side of it. So let's break it down. Financial markets are emotional machines. They rise faster than they should. They fall harder than they deserve. They punish the impatient. They reward the disciplined. XRP is going through the same cycle every future giant has experienced, a cycle where the price does not reflect value, but reflects emotion, a cycle where the world doubts the asset that institutions are quietly adopting, a cycle where the FUD grows louder just before clarity arrives, a cycle where the pressure intensifies just before the revaluation begins. Crashes happen because confidence temporarily breaks, but confidence always breaks before the system restructures upward. XRP's long-term value is structurally tied to a future financial system that is already forming. Governments are building digital currency frameworks. Banks are upgrading liquidity rails. Corporations are testing blockchain settlement. Tokenization is accelerating worldwide. And as this new system forms, it will require fast, scalable, and interoperable liquidity solutions. That is where XRP stands. Not as a speculative token, but as an essential technological solution for the world that is coming. The price today reflects confusion, but the value underneath reflects a future utility that is slowly becoming unavoidable. This crash is not the destruction of that utility. It is the perfect disguise. the perfect distraction, the perfect psychological trap, designed to remove the people who do not understand what they hold. Because when utility finally activates, when regulatory clarity is complete, when institutions begin moving real volume, when cross-border settlement shifts to digital rails, when liquidity corridors expand faster than analysts expect, the rebound will not be slow. It will be violent. It will be fast. It will be unexpected by the majority, yet completely obvious to those who survive the crash. That is how financial turning points work. They are invisible until they are undeniable. Now imagine yourself surviving this crash. Imagine holding while the market screams the opposite. Imagine staying calm while others panic. Imagine the moment you look back months or years from now and realize that this exact period, the fear, the uncertainty, the frustration, the confusion, was the moment everything was setting up in your favor. Imagine telling your future self you endured what others could not, that you held conviction when others held fear, that you stayed patient when others ran, that you trusted your vision when others abandoned theirs. That is how wealth is created in shifts like this, not by timing a perfect entry, not by chasing hype, but by surviving the crash that was designed to eliminate the future winners. This is the part most people will never understand. The crash is not your enemy. The crash is the filter. The crash is the invitation. The crash is the moment that determines who will rise in the next cycle. XRP is going through a phase that will be obvious in hindsight. A phase where the price disconnects from the fundamentals. A phase where the market reacts emotionally. A phase where uncertainty hides opportunity. A phase where weak hands exit just before the reversal. If you survive this period, you do not just stay in the game. You position yourself ahead of nearly everyone else. This is why almost no one becomes wealthy through markets, because almost no one survives the moments that matter most. But you are here. You are watching. You are learning. You are preparing. And that alone makes you different from most investors. You are not here for noise. You are here for clarity. And clarity is what allows you to withstand volatility without losing the vision of where this is all heading. So let's go deeper into why surviving this crash could be the most important financial decision you ever make. Because nothing about XRP's long-term trajectory has weakened. In fact, everything underneath is strengthening while the surface looks chaotic. That is the paradox of financial transformation. The price may fall while the fundamentals rise. The short term may look unstable while the long term becomes inevitable. That is why the few who understand survive, because they see what others cannot. And now we are going to explore what survival really means in the context of XRP, and why those who endure will one day look back and realize this moment was the turning point that made them rich. Surviving the crash does not mean pretending the volatility is comfortable. It does not mean ignoring the fear. It means understanding the deeper truth. The truth that every crash in every major financial transformation served the same purpose: to reset expectations, to cleanse the market, to shake out doubt, to create a clean foundation for the next rise. The same people who panic today are the same people who will one day say they wish they understood what was really happening. They will say nobody warned them. They will say the signs were not clear. They will say they did not know the potential. Yet the signs are everywhere for those who know how to read them. XRP is not collapsing because its value disappeared. It is reacting to a market that is emotionally unstable while simultaneously positioning itself in an ecosystem that is becoming structurally stronger every single month. Surviving the crash means understanding this duality, that the temporary chaos is hiding permanent progress. Think about what has been happening behind the scenes while the market panics. Ripple continues expanding into more countries. Banks continue running blockchain experiments. Liquidity corridors continue opening. Tokenization pilots continue scaling. Regulators continue drafting frameworks. Institutions continue exploring digital settlement. Every one of these pieces moves the world closer to a system that cannot function without instant liquidity. And when a system needs something, the price adjusts not slowly, but explosively. The crash is not a signal of failure. It is the last opportunity before the shift becomes undeniable. This is how every asset with long-term utility behaves right before its breakthrough moment. Look back through history. Before the internet revolution became unstoppable, tech stocks collapsed. Before the smartphone revolution reshaped the world, Apple's stock sank so low, the company nearly disappeared. Before e-commerce took over global retail, Amazon was ridiculed, and its stock fell more than 90%. The crash is always the moment that blinds the crowd and prepares the winners. That is what is happening now. You are in the preparation phase. This is the chapter where panic becomes profit for those who do not quit. And this brings us to a truth almost no one talks about. The people who become wealthy in markets are not the most talented, they are not the most skilled, they are not the smartest. They are simply the ones who survive the longest. They survive the crashes. They survive the fear. They survive the doubt. They survive the volatility. They survive the years when nothing seems to be happening. They survive the noise. They survive the storms that force most people out of the game. And then when the system finally transitions, they are the only ones left standing, with positions strong enough to benefit. Wealth is not a reward for perfection. Wealth is a reward for endurance. And endurance is exactly what you are building right now. If you survive this XRP crash, you will not only be mentally stronger, you will be positioned for one of the most asymmetric opportunities of the decade, because XRP is not designed for a retail-driven pump. XRP is designed for global scale liquidity. It is designed for institutional usage. It is designed for cross-border settlement. It is designed for a future where money moves as fast as information and as easily as data. That future requires an asset that can bridge currency systems across the world instantly. And XRP is one of the only assets capable of that role. This is why surviving the crash matters, because this crash is temporary. Utility is permanent. Fear is temporary. Infrastructure is permanent. Panic is temporary. Adoption is permanent. And when the market shifts from temporary emotion to permanent usage, the price will respond with a velocity that shocks nearly everyone except those who stayed. Now picture this moment in the future. Imagine waking up one day to news that banks around the world have activated digital settlement rails. Imagine seeing headlines announcing the launch of tokenized global financial systems. Imagine institutions requiring instant cross-border liquidity. Imagine regulators finally providing complete clarity. Imagine ripple corridors opening across every major financial region. Imagine the world realizing that the asset they ignored is now essential to the flow of global value. At that moment, the price will not rise gradually. It will reprice violently upward, not because of emotion, but because of necessity. The system will need liquidity. The system will need scalability. The system will need a bridge asset that already exists and already functions. And that bridge asset is XRP. Now imagine you survived the crash, and you were here to witness that moment. Imagine knowing that you held through the fear while millions ran. Imagine looking back and realizing that what felt like the hardest moment was actually the most important moment. Because here's the truth. The crash is not the barrier. The crash is the doorway. The crash is the turning point. The crash is the reset that makes the next expansion possible. But most people never walk through the doorway. They stop right before the opportunity begins. They quit right before the reversal. They surrender right before the reward. They base their decisions on daily movement instead of long-term vision. They misunderstand the purpose of the crash, but not you, because now you see it. Now you understand what this moment actually represents. Survival is not weakness. Survival is wisdom. Survival is strength. Survival is clarity. Survival is what will set you apart from almost every other person in this market. When you survive this crash, you will be operating from a position of power. You will not be shaken easily. You will not be misled by noise. You will not be blindsided by volatility. You will not be discouraged by slow periods. You will understand that every cycle of fear is followed by a cycle of expansion, and you will understand that every crash is followed by the moment when the world realizes what it ignored for years. XRP is not here to impress traders. It is here to support the next chapter of global finance. That chapter is coming whether the market believes it or not. And when it arrives, the value will not ask for permission. It will move according to demand, and demand will move according to utility, and utility will move according to global adoption. This is your moment to recognize what most people cannot, not because you are lucky, but because you are informed, because you understand the patterns, because you see the bigger picture, because you know that every crash contains the seeds of the next rise. If you survive this XRP crash, you will look back one day and realize that this was the moment everything changed. The moment you refused to break, the moment you refused to surrender. The moment you held your vision when the rest of the world abandoned theirs. This is Crypto Equation, reminding you that the future belongs to those who endure the present, and those who survive the storms will be the ones who rise in the calm that follows.